All right. We are.
Hey, I'm Brian.
Right, so I am Omar. We are the voice of the right, and today we will be talking about gun control laws and the walkouts that are happening across the nation. Dax, would you like to start us off with your opinions on if more gun control laws would reduce gun death?
I think that is false. I think that more laws is just restricting the people that are, like the good people that have, concealed carry, that are actively trying to, help out other people. Like what says, getting rid of the right to like carry a pistol, right? For let's say for like my dad carries a pistol, what would say passing a law that would let him not do that because, something happened. But then what if something did happen and then he couldn't do anything about it? He'd just be sitting there and, like not being able to do anything.
I totally agree with you. And it's like
adding.
You can continue.
So like adding more laws isn't going to fix anything. It's just it's going after the people that are the ones that need to be, like either fixed or, have some kind of help, instead of trying to take away the stuff from the people that are sane and that are, not actively going out and breaking laws.
Yeah, also, criminals are criminals for a reason. They don't follow the laws. So if you have a gun and, you're gonna use it to defend yourself, because if someone's gonna come up to you with a gun and start threatening your life, you're gonna use the gun to defend yourself. And if there's gun control laws, you're not gonna. It's depriving you from having something to defend yourself with.
The only people that will actually give their guns up are the people that are good, not the ones that are evil.
Exactly.
Yeah, the bad people are going to continue to fight to keep their or no, not how I want to phrase that.
They're just going to keep their guns because it's unconstitutional to go break into people's houses and take their guns, and it would also start a civil war.
It would be like the same thing.
I have the statistics right here of like how criminals actually get guns. The statistics are from Why Guns Don't Work by Blonde in the Belly of the Beast on YouTube. 39.6% of criminals obtain guns from friends or family members. 39.2% of criminals obtain guns from streets or illegal sources. 0.7% of criminals get them from gun shows. 1% of criminals purchase guns from flea markets. 3.8% of criminals purchase guns from pawn shops. 8.3% of criminals get them from retail outlets. And
do pawn shops even have gun control regulations?
Yes, they have background checks.
Okay.
I went to a pawn shop to get a gun, and it's not under my name, it's under my parents. But they did a background check. Everything checked out. In fact, whenever we first went, I went with my mother, and she couldn't get it because she has a New York ID, which means you can't cross the border or to another state with a gun that you bought from the state you're crossing from. So we had to go back with my dad. So that they're pretty heavily regulated, even from pawn shops.
Oh yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, if criminals aren't going to get a gun legally, if they're going to commit a crime, they don't want it to be traced at all. So right. What's going to be the difference?
39.2, both bad statistics for criminals getting guns off the street. It's 0.7 in the gun show loophole, so-called.
And they're criminals for a reason. They're not going to follow the law.
Yeah, what would be the point of passing a law just, to get the good people not to have the guns? Because the criminals are just going to, either go around that, buy it, off the streets or do something like that. And it's not going to be, fair for the people that are doing the correct thing and obtaining guns legally and having background checks and everything like that.
All right, guys, I'm going to add Torin to the call. So
sweet.
Y'all can keep talking.
At Torin.
Torin.
Hello.
Hey, Torin.
Hey, what's up? Everybody here?
We're recording.
Yes, everyone's
Okay.
here, with the exception of Logan. So, I said the topic sentence of more gun control laws would reduce gun death. What are your opinions on that?
More gun control laws?
Gun control laws. Do you think they'll increase death or
Reduce.
what'd I say? Yeah.
Increase or reduce?
Well, here's what the thing about more gun control laws. What they would they would absolutely, like, if not completely halt, but they would definitely reduce the amount of deaths by gun. It wouldn't reduce the amount of deaths overall. People are still going to kill people. It's not going to have a huge major impact. Look at the Australian buyback. After that happened, there's still a massive amount of people that the number of people dying there stays relatively the same. And even afterwards, they saw a spike in rape rates, thievery rates, and all kinds of things. And even they saw a spike in gun violence. No.
Where are you getting your study from?
I study actual Australian statistics. Like, I went to their basically the equivalent of their FBI, and oh my god, it was bad.
Mm.
I forget what the bureau was, but it was bad.
All right, the next topic sentence that I will start.
Wait, I actually have something. Most people, whenever they talk about how great gun reform is, like gun laws,
Mhm.
they bring up Asia or Japan. They bring up Japan specifically because they never had guns, but most people don't know that they had guns.
Japan also has some of the worst sexual assault rates and rape rates.
Okay, wait, one more time? I'm sorry.
Japan has some of the worst sexual assault and rape rates in the world.
Wow, really?
Same with England, same with France, same with all of those places. And you know what's the most common threat? Gun control.
They don't have guns in those countries.
Yep. Especially in England. England has some worse thievery and rape rates.
Well, Omar,
Yeah.
are we moving away from gun control in the next question?
No, it's still under gun control, but after a couple questions, I'm gonna start asking questions on the walkout.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. All right, continue. I'm sorry.
All right, so the next question or topic sentence that I must say is, do y'all think that gun control laws will not prevent criminals from obtaining guns or breaking the law? I don't think it's gonna prevent any criminal from breaking the law, because if they're gonna obtain guns, they're gonna obtain it illegally, because they're criminals. It's in the title.
I love David Hogg, the kid who's like leading the charge, the Parkland kid, and everyone's like calling him a saint and whatnot. And they're like, yeah, let's put more gun controls, because that will tell the criminals that they can't buy guns. That'll stop them. Are you serious? Do you hear yourself? They're criminals. They don't abide by the law. You're not going to tell them, no, you can't do that. Oh, man. They're not going to do that.
Swiper, no
what
swiping.
is your logic? Yeah, swiper, no swiping. You think that's going to stop him? You think that's going to stop someone?
Stop Swiper.
It stops Swiper, but that's a cartoon with a little Mexican girl.
Ben Shapiro, hosting Wire, doesn't what?
Ben Shapiro's, he's a sexy man.
Torin.
Okay.
Okay,
Wow.
Torin, keep it in your pants.
No.
I will.
No, listen.
I'll try.
Okay, listen. Ben Shapiro is one of the boys. Okay, like you gotta respect him, even if you don't agree with him. Most of the time,
Yeah.
he actually has. He can justify everything he says, and one of the things is he doesn't put the face of the shooter on his show, because he knows that it'll give the shooters attention.
Right. Yeah. He's talked about a lot about that. How it kind of glorifies the shooter.
Yeah, but the thing is, it gets a lot of views whenever you have the shooter, whenever you talk about the shootings. So he refuses to talk about stuff like that. He refuses to show the face at the very least. That's what I've heard. I've never.
He refuses to show the name and the face of the shooters.
Right. I think a lot of people are just trying to copy it. It's like a.
Well,
like
he
a
wasn't
consistent
actually the
thing.
very first one to do that. Several other media sites have started to do that, and I quite honestly like very much agree with that, because there's kind of like this. It's kind of like the idea is what you're doing is that when these people do it, there's sort of the drive that they kind of want their name out there. They want people to know who they are. They want them to fear them, and they want to be remembered as something that people fear. But when you do that, the goal is, and I've heard a lot of people say that, like, oh, but you're just causing more fear because you're too afraid to say his name. And it's like, no,
He's
well,
not
really.
Or like we don't care. He's a
Yeah,
terrible
like that's the
person, and
thing.
we wish it would stop. The human lives are much more important than your feelings about a shooter. I don't care.
Yeah, it's not
You
like
should
taking
put
away the
ratings
power of
above it.
shooters. Yeah, taking the power away from the shooters is more important than knowing the identity of said shooter.
You know, the Houston it was the Texas shooter that was stopped with an AR-15.
Yeah, Stephen Williford, he stopped that.
Yes.
There was like no media coverage, and it's
Okay,
because he
that
was
is
stopped
an
by-
interesting thing. You are absolutely right. The only person that talked to him, the only person that invited him to speak was
Steven Crowder. Yeah, I watched that actually.
Yeah, and here's the thing is that, like, I was actually talking to someone about this, and they were like all about like how evil the AR-15 was. And I was like, okay, tell me, do you know this name, Stephen Williford? They had no idea who I was talking about.
It's because it gets no media.
It gets no media because they realize,
One
oh
publicizes
crap,
it.
good guy with gun is an equalizer for bad guy with gun.
The media really doesn't like to talk about the defensive use of guns, of firearms.
Like all you
Well,
see in the
and
news.
also-
Okay, let's be honest here. All you see in the news nowadays is, oh yeah, so and so got shot by a gun. Oh, so and so got shot by a gun. Oh, 3 police dead because a dude shot him with a gun. Okay, but they don't talk about how someone heroically saved someone with a gun, or like how things that happen on a
They
daily
always
basis.
leave that part out, yeah.
Like, see, what they're thinking is like, oh, if we get rid of all guns, there's going to be peace. But there's going to be guns because they're already made. They're already out there.
We have
And
three
that's
of people where we have 3 times the amount of guns as we do people in the United States of America. That's the difference between here and Japan. Whenever
yeah, we own a third of the world's armory.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. We own a huge amount of guns in the United States of America. And I believe, Omar, is it half of the guns that are owned are AR-15s or semi-automatic rifles?
That I don't know, but I will find out for you.
It is.
Okay.
It's like half.
I bet counting the army, the armed forces, then yes, but the
No,
the
that's
armed
like
population,
civilian.
citizens,
That's
the citizens
civilian.
it's probably a majority of handguns, because most handgun violence is committed, or most gun violence is committed with handguns in
Over 80%, yeah.
I think it was actually 85 point something.
Is it 80? Is it up to 85 now?
I can actually look it up real quick. I have a tablet.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, I knew it was over 80%. And here's the other thing that I don't understand. And it's like, so these kids, like, I understand where they're coming from. And like, they think that they're trying to like make a difference. And I understand that. But what they don't realize is that like, they just don't do their homework. They don't realize that like, oh yeah, you want to know why your school was shot up? Because no other guns. There was no one to stop him.
Like,
And
okay.
that's
Soren. Okay, so like I was telling one of my teachers today, like if you go to a building that has a sticker or a sign that says, "Oh, no guns on this property," then that's literally telling the person, "Hey, you can come in and shoot us up because we don't have a weapon. We don't have anything to
we can't defend
ourselves."
That's one of the things with Venezuela, because there's a lot of no gun signs in places that get robbed every day.
Yeah, and it has some of the
Venezuela's so
worst
bad.
murder rates in the entire world, especially in the Southern America. Like, what is it? Is it Caracas that is like, if you go there, like there's an extremely high chance that you will get shot or like killed or something like that?
I haven't done much research on Venezuela, but I know they did a gun buyback, or they were very anti-gun before they became socialists.
Well, yeah, that's part of the whole thing. Yeah, during the process of socialism, that's like one of the key elements in socialism is taking away guns. That's like one of the key elements.
I don't think that's the key. I think it's
one of
just
them
happened over time. That's why a lot of socialists will say that that socialism has never been conducted correctly, is because there is really no correct way to do it. It's they move the goalposts.
The problem with socialism is that socialism, the thing about socialism is that socialism is more of an economic system than it is a political system. And I actually thought a lot about this, is that, and this is the reason why socialism does not work, and this is why you kind of have to take away guns, is because socialism inevitably becomes communism. It has to. Socialism states, hey, you know what? The brain, the neurosurgeon is going to make the same amount as the high school janitor because there's no pay gap.
You know, some people advocate for a higher minimum wage. I think that's a terrible idea.
Well, that's horrible.
Minimum wage.
It's a horrible idea.
No, I don't think there should be a minimum wage at all. And the reason for that is because if you have to pay someone who does no work this certain amount, then they want to raise it. Obviously, everyone wants more money. I think you should pay someone for what they're worth, and if they don't get a high enough paycheck, then they can change their job.
Well, and the problem with that is that it's not necessarily it's not necessarily the minimum wage that's the issue. It's actually the money. If you go back and you look in 1962 or 1963? Anyway, in the early 1960s, the Federal Reserve took precious metals out of our coins. So back in the day, minimum wage was only $1.25. But if you actually look at the worth of what $1.25 was back then, it was $17.50, I believe.
What year did you say for that?
It's like
early 60s.
Early 60s. Early 60s, the Federal Reserve took precious metals like silver out of our currency, and that just dropped.
So that would be 65 or 64, because those are the 64 is the year you look for when you're looking for silver quarters.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 64. So in 64, they took away precious metals out of the money, and so back then, money was worth a lot more. Like I said, $1.25 is worth $17.50 today. So the problem isn't the wage gap, or not the wage gap, minimum wage, but the problem is the money. And honestly, in my opinion, it's the Federal Reserve that screwed us over. But
I mean, what are we gonna do? Why'd they actually do that, though? There has to be a good reason for it. They're not just gonna take.
Well, because they wanted printing money and paper is the main reason why. That's why, a dollar is the main thing. And if you actually look on the dollar, if you look on the top of it, it'll say Federal Reserve Note. And basically what that does is that this little piece of paper, this little green piece of paper, is worth nothing. But because it has that Federal Reserve Note at the top, that means it is something. And because the Federal Reserve keeps on printing and printing and printing and printing money, they just keep on making money. And that's why the value of the dollar is, consistently going down. And part of the reason for that is they took precious metals out of the currency that we have. So the dollar used to be worth a lot more.
All right, guys. I'm gonna throw out another topic sentence for you.
All
right. So, by the way, I'm getting all these sentences from a website called procon.org. So if y'all wanna check it out yourselves, it's under the gun control section of it, and this sentence says more gun control leads to fewer suicides. Me personally, that not gonna happen. No.
No. Yeah.
That's dumb. That's completely unrelated.
Japan.
No.
Japan Japan
because-
has the highest suicide rate in the world, and guns do not exist. Are you kidding me?
Sudoku. Okay, so
Research.
All right,
most of the gun death statistics account for the suicides. And the
Yes,
suicides
actually.
make up 19,392. This is from the same source as I quoted before. She has all the stuff in her description. It's on YouTube. At Why Guns Don't Work, Blonde in the Belly of the Beast. Most of the gun crime statistics account for suicide by guns.
Yes, that is that is correct.
That's the reason why they frame it like that. Gun deaths will go down if we take away, or suicides will go down if we take away guns. No, it's going to stay stagnant. They'll jump off a building. Like,
Yeah. Okay, here's what I have. So there are 33,000 gun-related deaths a year. This includes suicide, which usually is around 21,000, leaving murders at only about 11,000 or 12,000. But that even is like murders is too broad of a term. That's like people dying. The issue with that is that and this is actually going back to the Obama era. So Obama was like, you know what, guys, CDC, do your research. I want to find out how many people die here and like how they're really used.
Hey, Soren, you're cutting off a little bit.
yeah,
Beep boop.
Like
Beep
30
boop.
times as many times as they are used for evil, they're used for good. Like 30 times. It was ridiculous. Anywhere from 500,000 times a year to 3 million times a year.
how did they conduct that study?
I forget what they did, but I mean, it's the CDC. They spent a long time doing it. They spent like a year or two like researching it, and they came up with those numbers, and they freaking verified it. Like, and Obama was like, you know what? Let's just forget that ever happened. Let's just forget.
Yeah.
Like me personally, suicide is like gun control is not going to do anything against suicide because okay.
Gun control isn't going to make suicide any better. The only reason why people use guns for suicide is it's quick and it's painless, and that's the only reason why. It's quick. You're not going to feel anything.
Exactly.
If you put it
so,
up to your head and you blow your brains out, you're not going to feel anything.
And plus,
But
if you're
usually,
gonna commit
if you
suicide, you already have the gun in your possession. Like you're not gonna go out buy a gun and all that stuff because you're one, if gun control is a thing, that's against the law and all that stuff.
if you're feeling suicidal, just get married. Like, what the fuck?
Basically.
Or go see some help, not just like sit around and try to do something.
Yeah.
Exactly. Like talk to somebody, like simply, well, not simply because I know it could be hard, but like go to like someone that you really trust, like your best friend or something, and be like, yo, I'm feeling this and that, and I really don't want to do something stupid to myself.
And that's like the thing that like is a really bad problem, and a lot of like people like are advocating for is that like we're focused so much on this gun control thing right now, but there's no attention being paid to the mental health of these people. They're just completely just screw you, just screw you. Who cares? Nobody cares. Like if you look at people that are like it's ridiculous how many teenagers I've met in my life that are so far gone and are so far like suicidal and stuff, and their mental health is not stable, but they never get the help that they need. And it's just this complete negligence. And in fact, when you find people to be that way, to be like very dark and very like, not jittery and happy all the time, is that you tend to like, separate yourself from them. And so they become even more estranged and more alone. And that's even more dangerous.
Is there a way I can leave and then come back to this?
Topic or
Like, if there's not, I'll just stay in it because it's worth it. But like, is there a way I can leave and come back?
Yes, I think you just need to like leave call and then like
And then I can just like get back easily. Like, I don't have to.
Yeah.
probably have to join
magic.
you or something, probably, or I think you can join back in.
Okay. All right, I'll be back. Y'all
All right.
have fun.
All right,
Damn, there
guys.
goes like most of the conversation.
Oh, it's all good. We can keep this going. All right. So another topic sentence that I want to bring into light. By the way, I've noticed that the pros and cons. So the pros would be like the liberal side of the conversation and the argument, and the cons would be the conservative side. So the pro side says armed civilians are unlikely to stop crimes and are
Oh my
more
God.
likely
That's a
to
load of
stop dangerous
bullshit.
situations, including mass shootings, making mass shootings more deadly.
That's
Wait,
not
repeat.
deadly.
What you said. What was that last part?
So it's like most likely to make dangerous situation, including mass shootings, more deadly.
No.
Like that's not
No.
true because if you have a
No, it's
weapon,
not. If
there's
you
a
look at the
simple way.
amount.
I'm back.
All right,
Oh, wow, that
Jacob,
was
do you want to
fast.
hear what I just said, Jacob?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right, so armed civilians are unlikely to stop crimes and are more likely to make a dangerous situation, including mass shootings, more deadly.
Depends on the situation. More often than not, in a defensive use, most of the civilians that are armed go to ranges all the time, so they're much better prepared than any idiot with a gun.
Well, and here's the thing too, is that on that first part where it says armed civilians never, like, what does it say exactly?
Are unlikely to stop crimes.
They stop, like, how many more times do they stop crimes than actual
36.
police officers?
I think you said 36.
Yeah, they stop crimes like way more often, because here's the thing, is that armed civilians, the thing about armed civilians compared to police officers is that police officers typically have like areas that they're supposed to be in. They have assigned locations to go to. They have assigned this, that, and what not to do. Armed civilians are just going about their daily life.
And also, given
They're just
police officers are trained to like take down, a threat. Armed civilians, yes, they might be armed, but they may not be trained in the proper manner to like take someone down.
Well,
I don't know how I don't know how I feel about that, because it's like whenever you go to the range, the entire purpose of going to the range, I mean, you shoot at a target that shows as typically it shows as a human, but most people, when you tend to look, when they go to train, they always start shooting center of mass. That's always like something that they tell you in Gun 101.
I actually know why you aim for center of mass, and I got told this by a guy at the range that I was going to a few weeks ago. The reason you shoot center of mass is because some people are like, why don't you shoot them in the leg or in the arm or something?
Yeah, I've heard that argument.
The largest artery in the body is in the leg. So, like, if you hit that artery, they will bleed out. And you can't aim for the head. If you aim for the head, then you're trying to murder them. You want them dead. If you shoot them in the body, that's where all the vital organs are. But like,
there's more likely a chance of surviving and to be actually prosecuted for it. Right.
Yeah.
It's also the easiest target to hit.
It's the largest area of the body to hit.
Right. So like, I go shooting all the time. I go to the range all the time, with my 45, and it's great. I have targets all over my room, and all of them have holes right through the middle of wherever I'm trying to shoot. I'm not missing the target. Okay, there's a shooter, and then someone like me, someone who's armed, is probably going to be able to stop him, or will die trying. At least that's how I look at it. I would want to die trying to kill a shooter rather than him kill other people.
And so here's a great thing that Jacob just said, is that, and like I said before, civilians armed go about their daily lives all the time. And so President Trump is trying to do right now is he's going to say that schools can elect designated staff members who already have a gun and are already licensed, and they have all of the requirements. that they can appoint these people to carry guns. Here's the thing that I don't understand, and I was debating someone about this, about like why they think that it's horrible.
Correct.
Did he cut out?
Okay, so
Sorry, did he cut out, my boy?
Cut out. Please repeat.
Jordan.
can you hear me?
I think he's out
Yeah.
entirely.
No, he's here.
Oh.
He's here.
Am I here? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, there we go.
Repeat what you said.
Yeah, you kept
Okay,
on cutting
so-
out.
Okay, so sorry. What I was saying is that I was debating someone on this, and they thought gun control was a better idea than President Trump's idea of designated armed staff members. And so, and this is something that I do not understand, like why, like especially like leftists and liberals, like they can't get their head around this. Is that like you just ask one simple question, and this entire like debate about like why it's a bad idea to have more guns on school campus is like one entire question that like just makes the entire thing fall apart. Is that when there's a school shooter, who do you call?
You call the police. But
Why do you call the police?
you call the
Because they have guns.
Because they have guns. But here's the problem with this argument. They're saying, oh yeah, let's just wait, call the police. Let's just wait till everyone is dead. And then we'll call up the police and they can do the cleanup.
With our school, the police station is right next to us.
Well,
It
yeah,
would
we're
still take some
fortunate
time to
enough.
get over here, but the average school shooting lasts 12 minutes.
It's 12
And
minutes.
If it takes 7 minutes for them to get ready to come over, and then it takes 7 minutes for them to come in, the shooter is already dead. He's already shot himself.
Or
And
continuing
here's-
shooting up the school.
Or continuing to, kill other people. And that's the biggest problem with this entire debate, is that they want to call the cleanup crew. What if the guy couldn't even get past the bouncer?
I am totally going to use that. The police are the cleanup crew. Oh my god, I'm going to use that.
Like,
now.
when you use that, they just fall apart because they realize that that's right. Like, that's exactly what they are as to that point. They're the cleanup crew. They are the cleanup crew. Is that there's already people dead. And so you're going to wait to call. And especially with the Parkland shooting, this Majority Stoneman Douglas, the police never went in.
Yeah.
It took them so long. And the reason for that is that they actually found out that Sheriff, whatever his name is, the joke of a sheriff that just needs to get removed, told them to stand down and wait for SWAT from another county to come down and handle the situation.
I know that I watched the video and the guy was roasting the shit out of this one cop that walked out of one of the buildings at that shooting and said, don't go in there. I think the shooter's there.
Oh my God.
And
that's the thing, is that like, and you know what's the worst part is that David Hogg, like I said earlier, he's the guy that's like running the entire show of like gun control with the Stoneman Douglas kids. He protected him. He said, no, what he did, who would want to go against a barrel of a 19? The guy you're saying needs to. You literally are saying, no, let's not have the designated civilians on campus that are armed to protect us. Let's leave it to the police officers and let them do their job. He did not do their job, and you're protecting him. What do you want to do? You're literally going against everything you've been fighting for this entire, just the hypocrisy
it seems as though
and the
leftists
double
also hate
speak.
the police. So like, why are they?
And that's another thing too, is that this entire thing with gun control is that you hear like, and I've gotten into so many debates with people regarding like things such as police brutality and stuff like that, is that they think that police officers are just bipedal murder robots.
They're not. They're humans, and that's why he didn't go in. He didn't want to die.
And exactly, like, and of course that's a good point, is that they are people.
Well, the thing is, he became a police officer to help people. If someone's going around in there killing people, I would run in there.
Yeah, it's like that's what your entire job is. Of course you're going to be scared, but at least if you go in there, you give the kids a fighting chance. And the thing is that and like I said before, the left thinks they're bipedal murder bots nowadays. And the fact is that they're also the ones advocating for gun control. You know who you're going to give the guns right to? The murder bots. So it's like, where do you guys want to do? And that's like the thing with the modern left, the modern regressive left, is that they just don't know what they're fighting for. They don't even know what they're fighting for.
Well, I think they all want
One
to
idea
have
set over here,
both.
they have one idea set over here, but they converge because they want one ideal. They want the government to be strong, they want the people to be weak, and they want all the guns to be in the government's hands, preferably pointing them at anybody who disagrees with their agenda. They want the guns given to the government and turned right back on us.
I firmly believe that the left originally was good, and it just went on a tangent. That's what happened.
That's what happened. Is that actually
they use arguments from moral standards. They're trying to be moral, but they don't understand. They've been misinformed.
Okay,
the left is not the.
I'm gonna be honest here. In the 70s, when the whole feminist movement started happening, those were the about.
That's kind of when this thing started to go south. Actually, I'd say more 60s. I'd say more 60s because that's when you had like the drug problems and like that's when problems really started to happen. But 70s is kind of when it got really bad.
Oh yeah.
But like if you actually look at it, liberalism was good. It was good at one point, and then between 1860 and 1920, the sides flipped. Conservatives became liberals, and liberals became conservatives. Conservatives actually used to be big government party, like the Whig and Republicans. They were big party. They were big government party. Abraham Lincoln was all for big government. But the Democrats were the guys that were like, hey, no, let's have small government. They were also the guys for slavery, but they wanted small government. And at some point, like between 1860 and 1920, they flipped.
I believe it was in the 70s. It was a 70s switch. I believe that's what it's called. 70s.
Yeah,
switch.
it's so like at some point the sides switched. But the biggest issue is that people always say, well, yeah, the Democrat and the Liberal Party is the party of morals. We're the party of the people. Or like, they say that they're the party of
party.
Yeah, the People's Party, the party of morals or whatever. That is complete and utter bullcrap. And like, okay, so like on one hand they say, yeah, we're with the feminists. We want feminism to be, a staple. We want them to be able to control their own bodies. No government shall ever touch their bodies. Okay, yeah, take away guns. Who do you think is going to be the most affected? Take a guess.
The people.
Not just the people, a little bit more specifically.
Gun owners.
Well, you're close.
Just tell us, ma'am.
Okay.
Honestly, I'm
Women.
looking stuff up. I'm just like...
Women. If you take away guns, look at places like England and France and Japan and China, places where guns do not even exist. They have some of the worst sexual assault, some of the worst rape. So they cannot defend themselves. And women, whether you want to believe it or not, whether you're a feminist or not, are inferior physically to men.
Okay, in all actuality, that is true because look at females. They compared to our like body mass and like our muscle mass and all that, we are a lot stronger than female. Yes, there are the occasional females that are stronger than us males, but the majority of all females are inferior.
Yes,
to
it's a
us
very
males,
small
like,
percentage of
physically.
females. But even those females that are like pretty freaking strong and like CrossFit girls and stuff like that are like, they train their entire lives and they're like, yeah, we're strong.
If they get into a bar fight, they are straight up fucked. Like,
They're done. They're done. Yeah, they cannot physically
You can
match
take
a man.
Ronda Rousey. You can take Ronda Rousey and pin her up against like the weakest dude, and they'll still kick her ass because I don't know. We have dicks. Like
I don't think that has anything to do. Yeah.
like
Well, it
Jacob's
kind of
logic.
is a little bit, Dax. because,
No,
like,
it's not, dude. The thing about that is that it's not just saying all men are more stronger and they can overtake a woman without anything like that. It could be majority, but what about saying all of the females that have something on them to protect themselves as like a self-defense thing, like something like pepper spray or something like that?
I firmly believe that all women should carry a judge. Of a judge, it's like a little pocket shotgun. It's like it shoots
use
a
them
10
for killing
millimeter.
snakes.
It shoots 10 millimeter.
410.
410.
It's a 410. 10 millimeter is like a cannon round.
Dude,
Yeah.
I am fucking autistic. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I have autism. No, I firmly believe they should carry a judge. It's not effective for like killing, but like
if someone's charging at you to try to do something, it's better to have something like that than just being defenseless.
Because
Well,
if you're defenseless,
this
you're not
goes-
going to have anything.
Hold on. The thing about that is that just saying that all women are inferior to men is not a true statement. You can't.
Well,
you
yeah,
can't
of
just say
course,
that.
not all, but on the majority of women physically are inferior to men. Physically, that's an absolute truth. That's why we have separate weight classes, and that's why we have transgender boys who are turning into girls that go into girls' leagues and crush them. They physically crush them because they are so much more physically dominant over women. And even the strongest women are nowhere near the same level as strongest men. They're nowhere on the same level, even strong women. They just are. That's one of the things about them that they're physically inferior to men. Even if you look at the strongest female, she is still going to be way weaker than the strongest male.
I think it's kind of sad that we don't congratulate women on the things that they can do. We try to push for more things that they can do. I think we should just be happy with what they can do instead of trying to change them.
Okay, this is where Brian could agree with us. Respecting women.
Respect women.
Respect women.
Okay, for me, okay.
Stop trying to change them into dudes.
Women can still be strong. I mean, I wouldn't
Of course they
say
can.
like men is inferior, but like a lot of women, they don't put a lot of energy into working out and being strong. The women who do are strong. They're tough. They can defend themselves.
It could
Like,
kick my
I
ass.
would-
Just
Inferiority
saying,
doesn't-
like,
Being inferior has nothing to do with self-defense. Unless the
Being
strongest
physically
man
inferior. Being physically inferior, yes.
Well, that's just because of how they're made. That doesn't mean they can't do anything against it. Like, they can be fit and be good enough to defend themselves.
they produce less hormones than guys. Or it's not hormones. They produce less testosterone.
Yeah, they produce estrogen and not testosterone.
Basic self-defense training. That goes a long way. That can help with self-defense.
Yeah,
Not that I'm
taking
going
down
against
someone. Defending yourself is not about being the strongest.
It's being
not
able
what
to
it is
take
at
them
all.
down.
There's multiple ways to take down someone that's a whole lot bigger than you that could be used against anyone. Just saying that women in general are, inferior to men because they can't, defend
Well, the
themselves.
reason
Well, also
why
you can-
Shut up.
Okay, if we're gonna
Hold
say
on.
women, we can also say kids as well, because if you look at kids, they're literally
Tax man, shut up,
like-
shut up.
Oh, you're just like interrupting every time.
Well, yeah, sorry. I wanted to make a point. I'm sorry. You go ahead, man.
No.
come
no,
on, Dax.
Dax.
Speak.
Come on,
No.
buddy.
Just saying that women are inferior to men is a stupid statement, right?
You're right.
Because-
Yeah.
Completely agree.
That's not true. All women are, the same as men, but it's the same thing as like saying that just being physically weaker than a man is like defining that person, right?
Okay. Well, and what I'm trying to get at is that, like, okay, so say that okay. Yeah, you do have a point. Is that there's absolutely going to be some women out there that can defend themselves. But what you're doing is that, like, okay, fine, you have a good point. So let's take the women that can defend themselves against men, okay? That's still such a minority of the overall female population. So and what happens is that when you do that, you're excluding overweight people, people that are physically disabled, elderly. My mom has.
Oh yeah, they physically
horrible back.
cannot self-defend themselves. They
Or
cannot
for-
defend themselves
Or
if they're disabled.
can I
Yeah,
easily?
but hold on.
Yeah.
Hold on.
And that goes both ways. That goes both men and women. So when you take away guns, you're taking away their ability to defend themselves. You're completely neglecting that entire population. That is a huge, huge amount of people.
Like I said earlier, they don't like to talk about the defensive use of guns. They only like to talk about the ones that kill people for no reason. Right? That's the deal.
But
And when you really look at it, is that like, and this is what I'm saying is that this is the reason why I say women are physically inferior to men. And like I said before, that's the entire reason why separate weight divisions in places like the UFC and in boxing and places like that and in wrestling is because if a man were to go in there, if a man were to, okay, so if the WWE and you had Stone Cold Steve Austin go against any of the divas in there, he would freaking pummel them.
I mean, can I interrupt you?
Yeah, but so look at like self-defense though, right?
To be fair, wrestlers have spent their entire lives around working out.
Yes. They
Men
have.
just have an easier time. Men
Well,
don't have.
and the reason why I'm saying that is that that's the exact reason why is that women in WWE, they spend their entire lives working out. They spend their entire lives becoming fit and strong and being able to do all these moves. They still would not be able to go up against a man who has done the exact same because men are physically built differently than women. So
Yeah.
they're naturally going to dominate over a female. Just naturally. That's how
but
it
that
goes.
doesn't make women inferior to them. That's a really like bad word to choose for
Shut
that.
up.
Well, how does that
I
not
think
make them
it's how they're
inferior?
made. It's how they're made.
It's
Like
not.
the word,
It's not a fact
I get
of
what you mean.
inferior,
It's the
but
word
it's more like
inferior that's.
It is okay, so maybe it's just a bad choice of words.
Yeah.
Physically-
inferior. That I feel like that's pretty legit.
like
just in
okay.
my opinion.
Okay, so
Well,
like
no,
it's like
it's
saying
just a
okay,
how
women,
they're built
women.
thing.
Yes, you're not. Yes, some women are not able to like take down a man. It's like saying, oh yeah, a little kid is can't take down a man either because like they're like 8 years old. They can't take out a guy that's like buff like 5 times their size. It's like the equivalent of being like saying, oh yeah, I'm a woman that doesn't work out. That trying to
But
trying
again,
to defend myself.
like this is also something that I wanted to go back to is that there are the two biggest groups of people that are going to be affected by gun control are going to be women and they're going to be the elderly and the disabled. Those are the two
Because
biggest
they don't have
groups.
the physical prowess.
They do not have the physical ability. Because okay, so yes, maybe a girl has had self-defense training, Dax, but what happens when it's a group of guys? Because that happens a lot.
Yeah.
That happens.
It's
Yep.
Okay, so how are they going to be able to defend themselves without a gun if it's a group of guys? Okay, so maybe a girl can take down one guy. Maybe if she's really, really good, 2. But 3?
I mean, the girl doesn't necessarily need a gun to defend herself. She can have like a pepper spray on her and just like spray them in the face.
Pepper
watched
spray won't do
videos
anything.
of-
But
I've
even
watched-
with so
it
pepper
buys
spray,
them. Hold on. It buys them enough time to get away. That's what it's
Nope.
used for. It's not to take
Nope.
down someone.
Well,
Well,
yeah.
if it's a group, you can pay with pepper spray. You can only take out maybe one guy.
because
with
it
pepper spray.
takes the thing with pepper spray is that it takes a lot. It takes a lot. You have to keep it on them because if they react quickly enough, maybe they can keep it out of their eyes and maybe they can keep on going. So you have to keep
I've
it on them for
I've watched
Even with
videos, this is really important. Like I've watched videos of people actually being pepper sprayed by cops, and they end up grabbing them. The first instinct whenever you're within pepper spray distance is to grab the guy, like as they're pepper spraying you. You have to extend your arm to pepper spray him, right? They grab that arm, and now they have a hold of you.
So
Now they're
and
going to rape you
and now
with
that
the
even that
pepper spray.
escalates the situation. Now you've made the situation even worse. But the thing with a gun is that even if it's not loaded, it doesn't even have to be loaded. The sight of a gun is way more of an opportunity to just get someone to back up. You just pull it out. If a woman pulls it out of her purse, that
You're gonna
guy
back up.
you're gonna back up. You're gonna go, whoa, whoa, whoa.
Like,
And
they're gonna
that's
get
the
scared
entire
because they're just like, oh crap, she has a gun, she can defend herself. We can't do whatever we want with her because she has something to
Re-
defend herself. It's in a form an equalizer in a way.
Right.
it's definitely an equalizer.
I think an unloaded gun is an even worse idea than pepper spray, in my opinion, because there's
Well,
something
and I'm not saying women should carry unloaded guns. That's stupid. But I'm saying the sight of a gun in of itself is enough to make someone double think like what they're about to do.
Okay,
It's
okay,
enough to make them reconsider the situation.
yeah, I'm gonna be
Yeah.
honest here. If I ever see someone like walking with like a gun, like they're open carrying, like down the street, and like I see them with a gun, I know for a fact not to mess with them because they have a gun. It's most likely gonna be loaded, and they have something to defend themselves. So like, let's say if I was being stupid and walked up to the guy and like punched him or tried assaulting him, he can easily pull that gun and point it straight at me. I don't own a gun, so like I wouldn't have something to to point back at him. The most I'd have is like a knife, and you know what a knife. Don't bring a knife to a gunfight.
It's
Yeah,
the classic thing.
There's something called the reaction distance, and the reaction distance is how fast you have to react before someone grabs your gun from your hands. So like if you point blank pull a gun on someone, they can grab the gun, right?
Yeah.
But if you're on the other side of a room, you pull out a gun and they start running towards you, you can shoot them.
Yeah.
That's the deal. That's why I think an unloaded gun at a short range is a terrible idea because
Well, and what I'm saying is that women shouldn't. That's an awful idea. Women should absolutely carry loaded guns. But the point of what I was trying to say is that even if it was unloaded, the fact of the matter
It
is
does
that
something.
the
it's a
sight,
deterrent.
the sight in of itself. If you see a Glock get pulled on you, if of course I never would, but if my intention was to physically harm a woman because I think, you know what, I should be able to do this. If I'm going to try and do this, and they pull out a Glock on me, even if it's unloaded, the sight of that
Okay,
is enough to make
the
me
person that's trying to do something, they don't know that the gun's unloaded. For all they know, the gun is
Exactly.
like full magazine full of bullets. Like,
Well, the thing is, you have to rack the magazine, or you have to rack the slide.
That or they just keep it on safe.
So you see them.
Yeah, you could just keep it on safe, like as if you've already done it.
You already keep around in the chamber.
You could. You can keep around in the chamber, but like with a Glock, you don't do that because Glocks don't have safeties, and if you do, then you have to have a trigger safety.
Okay, so but what I'm trying to say is that if a woman pulls out a handgun, even maybe a SIG, because that's what my
just say a handgun in general, dude. It'll make this a
okay,
whole lot easier.
yeah, I'm trying to specify things that I don't need to. But even if a woman just is carrying a handgun, that's all she's carrying, and she pulls out on you, my
Deterrent.
bet is that at least 7 out of maybe 10 times, the guy's probably gonna run away. The guy's gonna go, oh crap, and run because they're gonna fear for their life. Yeah, they want to do this, but they don't want to die for it. They're not willing to die for it. And 10 out of 10 times, it is going to make the person double think. It's going to make them reconsider.
To be
Alright,
fair, on the same side of the spectrum, with an unloaded gun, people can still rob banks. People have not banks per se, but like convenience stores. Like I'm not against guns. I'm fine with guns.
I gotta get a.
I think they're fun to shoot. But people have robbed convenience stores with unloaded guns because no one can tell if it's loaded or not.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because guns instill fear because we have this fear built around it.
Well, and that's the thing too, is that like to fear a gun necessarily isn't a bad thing. Like I was raised growing up, and my parents taught me from when I was a very little kid to respect them. And when you kind of fear a gun in that sense, it's more of respect. You realize this person has the dominance. This person is in control of the situation because they have the superior ability to take me out if I tried to do anything. They have that superior ability. And that's why gun control is such a horrible idea, is that you're not disarming. What they're trying to do is they're trying to disarm everybody because they realize, okay, So guns cause gun violence. So what if we just remove guns? There's no gun violence. The problem is that criminals don't abide by the law. Yes, I would never go out and illegally buy a gun because I'm a law-abiding citizen. But that rule does not apply to criminals.
Completely right.
And so what you're
Yeah.
doing is that, like, okay, so maybe this guy goes out and gets a gun. What happens when he goes in? And he knows, okay, these guys are law-abiding citizens. They're going about their day. Nobody's going to have a gun on them. I'm going to go in there and I'm going to hold the place up, kill a couple people. They can't do anything. And that's one of the things that I absolutely hate. Like, one I hated about the Hyde drill, and I just wanted to say something, but I held it back because I was just going to get yelled at, is that, so we had the Hyde drill. And the teachers were saying, okay, so what can we possibly do if the shooter comes in? What are we going to do to defend ourselves? And kids were like, let's get our backpacks and throw them at them. Let's get chairs and throw them at them. Let's get scissors and throw. And just basically, we're just grabbing things to throw at the kid.
The
Do this. And I'm just saying, what about an easier solution?
A
And if
thing
they try to
built for
come in-
self-defense.
If we have a gun to defend ourselves, you equalize. They're way up here on the playing field, and you're trying to throw stones at them.
I
He's
think
Goliath, and you're trying to throw stones at him.
I think
Of
we're
course,
so
in the story, he actually does get it, but you're throwing stones at a mountain. But if you raise yourself up to the same level with a gun, even if it's just a pistol, that is enough to keep you a better chance of living than it is if you're just throwing books at the person.
you know.
Okay, I gotta go.
Okay,
Yeah.
Later,
Dax.
see you, Dax.
see you, ma'am. The reality of the situation is the fact that if the guy shooting up the school points his gun at you, you are already dead.
Yeah.
He's not.
They're not
have
going to stop.
the trigger more than once. The thing that liberals and stuff are scared of whenever it comes to gun is not the fact that they can kill. It's the fact that they can kill en masse. That's why they're scared of them. I don't agree with it. I think that it's stupid that they would want to ban them outright or limit the magazines or anything like that. But that's why they're scared of them. I get it. You know?
Well, and here's the thing, too, is that, like, okay, sure, we'll ban guns as soon as we ban cars.
Right, cars commit more murders
Cars
or
Oh,
more
yeah.
homicides than guns.
Cars are weapons.
over 100 times, at least over 100 times as many people than guns do. But the thing is, and this
Now,
is
how
what I
about
go
this,
back
Jordan?
to,
How about
is that
this?
I was
Torn, how about this? Don't ban cars. Ban texting and driving. Like ban phones.
okay. That's actually
It is
that's
banned.
done. That's done.
It is
Just don't-
banned.
no, but not
and
not
that's
texting and driving.
that's actually a good
Text-
point. Is
like,
that just
ban
because you ban
phones
something,
all
not
on-
everybody's gonna follow it. Not everybody's gonna follow it. Even if you ban something, not everybody is going to follow it. And that's something you cannot get through leftists and liberals' heads, is that you cannot achieve peace by banning and banning and banning and banning. You
Saying no guns
can't
is
do it.
just 2 words, okay? Listen, if you really want to get rid of guns, start a civil war by going into people's houses and taking away their guns. That's a good idea. Start a civil war.
Well, and that's the thing too, is that they don't realize what they're doing. Because every gun owner in the United States of America is saying, oh, you're trying to take away the AR-15. What do you think's gonna happen when you do that?
No gun.
After they take
Like
if
no
they
gun violence is gonna go
through-
down because most of the gun violence is is due to
No.
handguns.
So that's assuming that you're saying that the people who firmly believe in the right, okay, a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. You think that the people who know that, like me, know that word for word. Of course, I might have messed up a few, but I know like a massive amount of it. They firmly believe in that. I firmly believe in that statement that the forefathers showed us. You think that they're just going to go, yeah, sure, go ahead. I understand.
You know, it's originally to protect against a tyrannical government. That was the original reason. And I know that.
And
for a
that,
fact because
that
George
actually, that
Washington-
again goes back to like a huge hole in their logic, is that they say, you know, they are always talking about how Trump is this fascist leader and how they need to
The-
impeach. But why do we need guns to protect ourselves from a tyrannical government? I don't know. Maybe because you're literally the one that calls our president a fascist all the time.
Maybe it's
Look, I'm not the biggest Trump guy. I like some of the things he's done. I don't like some of the other things he's done.
Twitter.
Like, yeah,
Yes.
Twitter. He needs to have his Twitter taken away.
Dude.
Like, honestly.
Twitter privilege is
Sometimes it's funny, like when he called Kim Jong-un Rocket Man, that was pure gold. But like, here's the thing, is that, and this is another huge problem, is that like I'm going to be ready to start listening to leftists as soon as they can figure out what it is they want, as soon as they can figure out what it is exactly that they're trying to do, because they have all these ideas running amok in their head, and what they don't even realize is that they always loop back to the same result. They loop on each other, they twist and they turn, and it's a huge knot. When you look at most conservatives like me, we think things out. We have a map of what this is going to do. This is going to do exactly this and that. And we look at the benefits, and then we look at the bad things. You know, the pros and cons.
What you have is you have people running in circles with their logic. And as soon as I run in a circle with my logic, I change my logic. I change the equation.
You change the equation. Because when we realize, oh, there's a fallacy with this. Okay, let's go back. Let's take a step back. Let's figure out what we're doing. Okay, here's probably what the problem is. Let's try and fix it. And it's a trial and error. Sure, we may not get it perfect the several perfect times. We may not get it right. Blah. We may not get it right the first several times, and we'll never get it perfect. But we can get it to a point to where it's much more of a benefit than it is a detriment. And that's the thing that you cannot get through them, is that they are looking solely at the detriments. Gun violence guns are going to lead to gun violence.
I think they're missing.
They cannot get that through their head. Hold on, give me a minute.
Yeah. All right, Jacob.
What's going on?
Huh?
All right, so I'm gonna ask another topic sentence over here.
Oh yeah, we're doing those.
Oh yeah. You think I forgot about those? All right, so enacting gun control, such as mandatory safety features, in other words, gun control, not gun control, background checks, would reduce the number of accidental gun deaths.
Can you re-ask the question, please?
Yes. Enacting gun control laws, such as a mandatory safety feature, would reduce the number of accidental gun deaths.
The fuck do they mean mandatory safety features? There's already
Like every gun has a safety?
Mandatory safety feature, aka background checks.
Oh, background checks. What are you talking about whenever you say background check? Like
if they have training with guns?
No, like actual background checks to like be able to have a gun.
They already do that.
Exactly, and like a lot of people believe like for instance, when Obama stated in 2012 that Indiana gun shows, they don't require you to have background checks, so you can just go over there, go to a gun show, and buy yourself a gun without having any repercussions.
0.7. That's the amount of guns that are bought illegally from gun shows. 0.7. Like I have the statistic.
And and I'm just gonna give you the first couple sentences of what the article that goes with this topic sentence says. So it says approximately.
Hey boyos, I gotta go eat. It's good hearing from you guys. I look forward to more episodes with y'all.
All right, Soren.
Yeah, this was nice.
This was awesome. This is much better than what me and Omar had
Oh
going
yeah.
for the first.
The interview episode.
Okay, sort of disclaimer.
More people equals more views.
Okay, guys. Sort of disclaimer to the viewers. Austin Bomber dude, yeah, he committed suicide. He went out with a bang. So.
Yeah, he went out with a bang.
Oh yeah, I heard that.
He legit blew himself up in a car because cops were going.
I wonder if he believed in the Prophet Muhammad.
Totally, Hey, that's a little bit racist right there. Like,
That's not racist.
And that's
I mean,
not racist, stereotypical towards, all that. Yeah, wrong wording.
Wrong wording. Cut that out.
All right. So,
nothing gets cut.
Nothing gets cut.
No, this is
No, not all people are like that. It's a joke.
Hey, I'm part Middle Eastern. You don't see me blowing up.
You're Mormon.
Okay. And what is my name on your phone?
Never mind.
Exactly.
No, I'm curious. What's the name? What's the name?
It's like Mormon terrorist or whatever. Okay, so I'm just
Oh.
gonna read you the couple sentences of the article that goes with the enacting gun control laws, such as mandatory safety features, would reduce the number of accidental gun death. So approximately 50% of unintentional fatal shootings are self-inflicted, and most unintentional firearm deaths are caused by friends or family members. According to the Law Center to prevent gun violence and the National Physicians Alliance state with the highest concentration of guns have nine times the 9 times the amount of accidental gun deaths and 89% of unintentional gun shooting deaths of children occur in the home. So it's pretty much saying that the only reason why there's like 50% of like why it happens is because it happens because of a family or friend, and 89% of it's because of kids shooting them, shooting stuff at home.
Well, that's the parents' fault. They need to keep the guns in a safe place. A
No,
gun safe is a
it's not
thing.
even okay, and it's not even that. What if the kid gets the gun safe code or whatever? The parents need
Well,
to.
that's the parents' fault.
Well,
The
yes,
parents need to keep that up
yes, but
locked.
what I personally believe is that the parents should start teaching the kids from a young age to respect guns.
Yeah,
As Carl was saying, respect guns and teach them, hey, guns are not a toy. These things can hurt you. These things
That's what
can hurt someone
that's what
else.
my
Don't point it at
grandparents
somebody.
did. That's what my grandparents did, man. I'm perfectly respectable. We're perfectly respectful of guns, you know.
I think
Because
guns should be
guns on
taught in
itself,
school.
guns on
Most
itself,
of
if you
the
put it
time.
on the table, it's not gonna shoot you because it needs someone to pull the trigger. Unless
Right.
the room is like extremely overheating, it's like over 100 degrees, and like the bullet casually shoots out of the chamber. You know?
That
Well, that
happens.
means that you rack the slide. That means that you rack the slide on the gun, and now it has a bullet in the chamber. If you don't even rack the slide, then even if it is that hot in the room, then it's not going
Oh
to
no,
shoot.
but like
The only
hypothetically,
problem I
let's say
have with this one-
hypothetically you have a loaded gun. It's there's a bullet in the chamber and all that stuff. But
it
a
can sit
bullet
there for
doesn't.
a million years and it won't fire. It's fine.
True.
Okay. Here's the thing about that. I can't actually disprove this. That your numbers. I'm more of a numbers type of guy.
Oh, I know. I
The-
don't believe that the numbers that they give us in this article is factual because
No,
one,
here's the thing. If they cite something,
which they do not.
and
They did not cite where they get these numbers from.
okay, that all right.
That's dumb.
So we just kind of have to assume that they're right. If they are right, then it's bad. Okay, and I can't dispute any of it. But if it's wrong, then it's completely BS, and there's no problem with it. The
Exactly.
only problem is I can't dispute it because I don't have numbers.
Wait. Hey, so Jacob, Brian.
Yep.
Yeah.
So here's the counterpart to that to the topic sentence. So it says more gun control is not needed. Education about guns and gun safety is needed to prevent accidental gun deaths. And they
Yes,
say
I agree with that.
yes, I 100% agree with that. And what they
That's exactly what I said like 5 seconds ago.
exactly.
Guns
like-
need to be taught in school, like basic gun training, how to aim, stuff like that. It should be like a kindergarten class.
I don't
Exactly.
even think you need to
Probably not
know how to
kindergarten.
aim. I think they'll figure it out. But I think
How guns
pellet
work.
guns. I think BB guns and pellet guns are a good way to teach people about guns without actually having casualties. You know what I mean?
Yes. Mm-hmm. And
So like Brian knew nothing about guns before he went to
Oh,
my house.
yeah,
and
yeah.
then-
I completely just didn't care about guns, but like I went to Jacob's house and just shot some guns, and it was fun. It's like when you practice like aiming and you can hit a dime from like 56 feet away, you get pride in
I
that.
think
okay, I'm gonna be honest here. The only gun that I've
context,
ever
we were
shot was a
shooting
pellet
BB
gun.
guns.
So,
We should
like-
give some context. We were shooting BB guns. I have a really accurate BB gun that we were using to shoot dimes and stuff from across my yard. My yard is 56 feet from the door to the fence.
Okay, I'm
We were
mapping
shooting
out
it
your
from there.
backyard now. Now I gotta get an image of your house. Pretty simple.
Huh?
Now I know where you live.
Exactly. I just mapped out your backyard. You told me like 50 something feet. Okay, now I know where you live. Thank you, Jacob.
The 56.
Yeah, that's
Come get
possible.
me, I got a gun.
That's actually possible, Jacob. There
No,
are
but
people
like
on the internet that can figure out where you live with that knowledge.
It'll be fine.
totally. But like honestly, I'm just gonna be honest here with you. I've never shot an actual gun. No gunpowder gun. The only thing that I've shot was a CO2 powered pellet gun.
It's fun. I honestly like guns are really fun. They kick back in your hand.
Hang
Yeah,
out with friends.
I know, but like ever since I was little, like my parents, they've never owned a gun, and the only time that we have owned a gun was like when we first moved here to Texas, because we were moving
you
here, we
have
didn't
like
know what was
7
going on.
miles.
So like, I never touched a gun. My dad was the only one that handled it, but like I grew up knowing that guns are they're good because they can help you, but if you respect it and like nothing bad could happen from it, because if you're holding a gun and you're not pointing it at yourself, you're not being stupid, you're not pointing it at somebody else, nothing bad is gonna happen. But if you're pointing it at somebody and your finger slips, you shoot somebody, they're right there, they're dead on the ground. You gotta
Well,
teach
one of the
kids.
rules with the first thing they teach you whenever you get to a gun range you've never been before,
Don't
they
don't
hand
put your
you
finger on the trigger.
they hand you a plastic.
Do not point it at someone. Do not point it at someone.
No, what they do is they make you read a thing, okay? Then they give you a blue plastic gun, and they face it the wrong way on purpose, so that you first say something like, "Oh, you're handing it the wrong way," and then after they switch it around, you grab it, you point it straight upwards, with your finger off the trigger. And if you don't do that exactly, then they make you retake it, and you end up learning it because you want to be able to shoot your gun.
Oh yeah.
It's not that hard to remember either. You always keep the gun pointed down range. You'll be fine.
All right, Jacob, do you mind if I read you the article that goes with the one that we all agree on?
Yeah, go ahead.
Education?
Slightly education. Well, yes. Okay, so the article says 95% of all U.S. gun owners believe that children should learn about gun safety. Guns don't kill people. People kill people, which I 100% agree with. And people need more gun education and mental illness screening to prevent massacres. For instance, the whole Parkland shooting, during like they supposedly say that the kid had mental issues and all that. So and he bought his assault rifle legally, because in Florida you could be 18 and buy an assault rifle. Same with here in Texas. You can be 18 and buy an assault rifle. And like if they screened for like any mental illnesses, they could have prevented the whole shooting.
Would you say repeat that last part?
If they did a mental illness screening, so like if the person has mental problems, supposedly, because that's what they said that he had mental problems, so that's why he shot up a school.
Hey, I'll be right back.
Yeah, so Brian is just me
Okay.
right now. So what they said on the news was that the shooter had mental illnesses because he lost his parents at a young age and all that stuff, which I understand. You can be traumatized because of it. You can have problems in the future, but if you had mental illness screenings to like find out if you have anything like if you're mentally challenged, like in a way you have a problem, you don't get like a gun to so that they can prevent any massacres from happening.
Okay, I'm back.
Yeah. What I think is like this is not really directly related to gun control, more like somewhat, but I feel like mental illnesses should be tested regularly
Okay.
at like
yes.
schools.
Totally, dude,
Something
we're
about
teenagers.
that-
We have hormones going through us. We are legit like most teenagers nowadays are like suicidal. They want to like shoot people.
Yeah.
They want
I
to
feel
do
like
things.
it should be a yearly thing. I feel like it should be a yearly thing. Every year you check your mental state.
No,
And,
mental
like-
state is subjective. That's why they can't check it very well. That's why so many mentally ill fit individuals get through the screening process, because it's all subjective. So
That's because the government's dumb. Because
that's
straight up, most of the questions are directly like,
that's because
okay, like
psychopaths
most of the
are
questions.
smart and they can get through it.
Or they can legit lie about, when they're taking a test, like, oh, have
Yeah,
you been
because like most of
suicidal?
the questions,
I never have thoughts
yes,
about
like
hurting
most of the
Like,
questions
me
are just completely dumb.
like me totally having a, suicidal thoughts, that's obviously not a thing. Oh, me having homicidal thoughts, maybe one time. No, that's honestly not true. You know,
You,
and I'm not saying that
I
it's
feel
an
like
example of me
psychopaths have
because,
conversations in their own heads. I feel like psychopaths have conversations in their heads, like
schizophrenia,
they're
dude.
talking to a therapist, and they're like, therapist is just like, any homicidal thoughts, and he's like thinking in his head, he's like, well, there was that one, but I feel like one is too many, so I should just answer no.
Yeah,
Like,
Yeah,
like
they figure
can't
out
tell
ways
the
around.
difference between normal thoughts and psychopathic thoughts.
all right. Here's another topic sentence.
All right.
Okay, gun control laws are racist.
What? No, that's dumb.
Okay, and the reason why they say this is because, here, let me read you what it says. Current gun control laws are frequently aimed in inner city poor black communities who are perceived as more dangerous than white gun owners.
That's dumb.
No, that. Okay, so let me get this straight. Is it they don't want to sell guns to black people, or is it less black people buy guns, or more people black people buy more guns?
It's
Is
not
that the question?
No, it's not saying that, black people don't get guns or they don't have the ability to buy more guns or whatever. It's just
Is
saying
that
that the gun control laws are frequently aimed towards inner city poor black communities, like let's say Detroit, not trying to
So
call them
they
out or
get
anything,
less guns.
but like, like Detroit or like Chicago, those two cities in the United States lead with the most gun violence, like more than 50% of gun violence in the United States, leading,
don't they have like really strict gun laws?
exactly, and they still have the most gun violence in the United States.
That's what the hell. Detroit has like really strict gun laws.
And yet you see that it's like the most gang-filled, violent,
They need to stop voting Democrat, man.
and it's all because of the gun control. You see that gang members, they have guns. They most likely illegally bought the guns, and they go attack people that don't have guns because there's law-abiding citizens that, don't have a gun. They reach the age to where they can buy a gun, but there's gun control laws to where it's, oh yeah, you can't buy a gun in the city and blah blah blah. So like,
Oh, I really think I need to specify that the only reason I said black people is because you mentioned inner city, and the majority of inner city people are black in most states, at least.
oh no,
He did also say racial.
no, don't worry. The article states, frequently aimed at inner city, which also involves poor black communities. So let's say Greenspoint and the Houston, the Houston area. Greenspoint is considered an inner city poor black community.
You know, I really
I
liked
would
what FDR did, but people in bad situations need to stop voting Democrat. Like I feel like that's a little off topic, but like, come on, man. FDR was good and all. He got us out of a tough time. He was Democrat, but stop voting Democrat. Anyways, I'm sorry.
It's all good. And
I'm
okay,
triggered.
and to finish off for the whole gun control talk before we talk about, the walkouts, which sadly Torrin isn't here because he has a very strong feeling for it. Gun
Dude, those
control.
fucking walkouts are dumb.
Oh yeah.
What's that beeping noise?
Don't worry about it.
Okay, so
You're on
control
the fucking
gun
walker.
control efforts have proven ineffective.
Yeah.
For instance,
That's true.
Mexico. If you look at Mexico, Mexico is an extremely violent country with a lot of gun violence, and yet they have they have very strict gun control laws. And if Mexico can't get their stuff together with gun control and keeping, being safe and all that with a lot of because they have a lot of gun violence. And
Listen, I feel like gun control would work with a small town with a small amount of guns in it. Gun
Okay, let's
control
say-
isn't for like 3 times the amount of guns than people, right?
yeah,
Okay, so like Japan, I love Japan's gun control thing. Barely anyone has guns. Okay,
Doesn't
they're
work.
very highly regulated. It's a high waiting list, stuff like that, right? It works. Gun homicides, practically none. I might be wrong, but from what I've seen, practically none. But the thing is, they never had a ton of guns in the first place. So it wasn't hard to get guns away from people. Here, it's a much different story. You have 3 times.
We
the
already
amount of
have
from
guns.
People. Yeah, we already have guns, and we've had guns for hundreds of years. It's not a. You're not taking them away from us anytime soon, okay?
It's like the second rule made in the United States. We are allowed to have guns.
Yes.
it literally is the Second Amendment stating, "Oh yeah, you have the ability
Exactly,
to
that's what I
bear
mean.
arms, to have guns, so that you can
We
defend
have the
yourself
right
from-"
to guns. Do not get rid of them.
Exactly.
You know, George Washington, there was a point where he could have taken away guns because there were small civil wars starting, or it was like a revolt or something where
Confrontation. Don't-
some places
I don't
wanted
think
to break
Civil War
away
would
and not have to
be
pay taxes and
like
stuff.
Jacob. I don't think Civil War would be like the right terminology for it, but like confrontations.
It could have been stopped with guns if he took away guns, but he chose not to take away guns. I'm sorry if I'm using the wrong terminology. The gist is he could have stopped these small disputes by taking away guns, but he didn't because he knew how important the Second Amendment was. He knew that he needed to keep guns to overthrow the government if it became tyrannical. Venezuela, the first thing they did before the government went tyrannical is taking away the guns. I don't think people understand now, but if we take away the guns, if the government succeeds in taking away the guns, it's tyrannical. It's going against the amendments. It is actually, by definition, tyrannical. It's tyranny.
It's what the founding fathers fought for. We want guns.
Right?
Well, it's not really that we want guns. It's more like we want our freedom, so we're gonna use guns to get our freedom.
No
If
one
you're
can
bad,
take-
we'll shoot you. Probably
Right.
not that exactly.
Nope, that's actually you're more correct than you'd think.
Like, I mean that, but I mean, like, if you think of it, like, from assassin standpoints.
Oh no, I'm saying
Yeah.
the gist of it is we wanted a bunch of guns in the U.S. just in case the government did try to take them away. Because if
If
the
they
government
become
started trying to
Britain.
take them away, then we just rise up against the government. That's why a civil war would start if they started taking away more guns.
All right, so I'm gonna move on to the next hot topic that's on this. So the walkouts.
Bad.
Those are dumb.
Oh, it's very stupid. I honestly think
But,
it's
I hate
it's
how we're being
ineffective.
forced to do it.
Actually,
we're not.
I don't think we are doing that anymore at our school.
Oh, really? They stopped that?
I'm pretty sure because no teacher is confirming anything other than the ROTC teacher.
Why would you
Wait.
walk out? Like, what is it actually
But
solving?
Klein
You're
has
walking
one
out
scheduled
because
for
those
April
7
20th.
minutes.
420 Blaze.
Oh boy. Those few minutes that you walk out of the class. Oh boy, media attention. Good.
No,
Very
but-
Well, no, the worst
and
part
me
is, like,
personally-
government-sanctioned schools are having you do this for the government to take away guns.
Huh.
And like, okay, so what? Like, okay, so I'm on a website that has like whole thing. It says everything you need to know about the national walkouts or whatever. So it says, so there's a girl that's holding a sign that says, "Mr. Prez, how many more kids will die?" So if you look at recently, 2 kids were shot in Maryland because of another shooting. The third person, I believe, shot himself or was shot by the cops. And you don't see any media publication on that because okay, yeah, one news station might have said, "Oh yeah, some kids in Maryland got shot." That's about it. That's about everything that you're gonna hear
Dude, I
on the
haven't
news.
heard anything about Maryland. I
Exactly.
haven't seen it on the news.
And the only reason why I know about it is because I have a teacher that informs us on what happens in the news, and what's going on. But in all actuality,
Jersey.
okay,
Shut
so
up,
like,
Jersey. Sorry. I'm sorry.
it's all
He
good. It's
means
all
the state.
But um, like that poster sort of reminds me of that Maryland shooting because Mr. Prez, how many more kids will die? Well, the kids didn't really die, but they were injured because of another shooting. But you don't see us, getting all like crazy about it, like what happened in Parkland. Okay, 17 people died in Parkland, yes, and only 2 people got injured. Innocent students got injured. Okay, it's only two, but so what? It's still a shooting at a school. But you don't see anyone walking out for those 2 kids.
You know something? Okay, this is somewhat related. You know the whole 18 school shootings this year stat?
Yeah,
It's so dumb because like most of those haven't. No, only like one person died, and that's because they were suicides.
Oh,
How come we didn't get reports on that? If these school shootings are so important, how come they weren't reported? How come we're only hearing about major and important
what
ones?
people are worried
No,
about is
here's-
like, oh, how are they able to get guns on campus without anyone noting and all that? And
No. Okay, this is actually important. The 18 number statistic. There's been 3, or it might have gone up, but last time I checked, it was actually 3. A school shooting is only defined by a gun going off in a school. That's
Well,
why
no,
I
no,
like to use
like the 18 school shooting statistics, it's most of it is kids committing suicide in school with a gun.
Nope, most of it's a gun going off. I believe 3 were actually kids being shot, like shooting themselves. 3 were
Hold on, let me check this.
shooting other kids, and then the rest were like guns going off in the school. So the statistic is bad. It's not a true statistic, but you see media outlets using it, CNN, because it makes it even worse. It makes it seem like the statistic is even worse than it is.
The point is the 18 school shootings, it's not true. Or it's somewhat true, but not how you're thinking of it.
3.
It's not. Yeah, it's not
3 school
18
homicides.
people. It's not 18 people or 18 people coming in and killing like hundreds of people. No, it's just guns going off.
And like
It's not.
and okay, if you consider I'm just gonna say this, so let's say if you grow up in a small town and when it comes to hunting season, like you live during, with people like that, they have rifles and shotguns in their trucks, right?
Right.
Like they park
Yeah.
their cars on like student parking lots, but the school doesn't care because you live in a small town and everyone knows each other. So you can easily be like, oh yeah, you can walk to the person's house and be like, yeah, your son brought a gun in his truck and blah blah blah. And that's totally normal because if it's hunting season,
They know
everyone
each
knows
other. I mean, it's like.
Exactly. Like, oh yeah, did you hear that Joe Bag of Donuts just shot a guy, just shot his neighbor for no apparent reason? Like, that's very not
know-
likely to happen. So like, maybe it could be those type of incidents. Oh yeah, you have a gun in your car and you're technically on campus, but the gun happened to go off or something happened in the car. What if you're driving your guns in the back seat and something pulls the trigger by accident?
Well, you keep your guns unloaded. You don't keep them cocked. Stuff like that. Like I don't keep them cocked.
But Jacob,
the
let's
only
be
reason
honest
I-
here. Not everyone is as smart as you because there's a lot of Americans.
Yeah,
as an
people
American,
don't know
They
guns.
have to. No, the thing is, they go through training if they go through to a. You know what? That's
But
actually.
if they don't go to a range, if they just buy a gun, they're like, okay, I'll teach myself. I
was going to say if they go to a range, then they probably know proper safety. But the thing is, not everyone is Shiloh. Shiloh's pretty great whenever it comes to their rules.
so I'm looking at what the whole the whole 18 shooting statistic thing.
Yeah.
So I'm reading and it says January 26, Dearborn High School, Dearborn, Michigan, Shots were fired during a fight in a student parking lot. In other words, no injuries were reported, so no one got hit by the bullet, but there was a gun fired on school property.
Exactly, and that's like what most of the shootings are. No one getting hurt.
But there's still a shooting. No one's getting hurt, but they still count it as a school shooting.
But they didn't have violent intent.
Well, the gun was
Oh
shot.
yeah, they had violent intent. They wanted to shoot that guy.
Yes,
But
they did
the
have
thing
violent
is,
intent because it
school
says
shooting
Oh.
is
shots
only
were
defined-
fired during a fight. If there's a fight, then someone's obviously gonna try to win the fight by shooting the person.
Well, was it the guy? Oh, I thought it was a third party, like someone like trying to break up the fight
It does.
just by shooting a gun.
It doesn't say
By
that
the
there
way-
was a third party. It just says shots were fired at a school parking lot. No injuries were reported.
Hey, school
Okay, then.
shooting is only defined as a gun going off on campus. So, like, anyone could just shoot a gun into the air and it'll be a school shooting. So, like, if a gun goes off via, like, an instructor teaching about guns or something stupid like that, in which they should be fired, then it's a school shooting. Oh boy, press, media, everyone's going to say there's been a shooting and blah, blah, blah.
Okay, here this is I think would be one of them, like would be considered a school shooting, like a technical school shooting. So it says Wake Forest University, Winston-Salem, North Carolina. A 21-year-old was shot and killed during a fight at a party on school grounds. It wasn't during school time, but it was at a party on school grounds.
That's a school homicide.
Exactly, but it's technically not a school shooting because it wasn't during any school time, like wasn't during like how Parkland happened. Parkland was during like actual school time and people were studying.
When was the
and doing-
school party? When was the school party?
A
Was
party
it after school hours?
most likely because I'm pretty sure schools don't throw. It's a university, so I'm pretty sure, like
Oh, it's a university. Okay, okay.
yeah,
okay.
Wake Forest University in Winston-Salem, North Carolina, and it's
Oh, okay.
or another one.
Hello?
This was I believe a act of self-defense. Oxon Hill High School, Oxon Hill, Maryland. A student was shot and injured in a parking lot during an attempted robbery.
Oh.
Maybe
Hmm.
the student was trying to defend himself, or maybe the robber tried shooting, shot the kid or whatever. But
Whenever you have a dictionary defined term, it's not like feminism. Whenever you define like feminism or women's rights or something like that, you can use any layman's terms to describe it. School shooting is this, and then school homicide is this. One is both, and then the other one's describing a specific thing. So, like, school homicide would be a gun killing someone on campus. That's terrible. School shooting would be defined as a gun going off on campus. That means that you can link both shooting to school homicide and just a gun going off. We had an example from earlier where it was I won't bring it. I don't remember it. So
The parking lot or the fight?
No, it
Or-
was from way earlier, like an hour ago.
Oh,
Right.
okay.
okay, so I'm just gonna state a little fact that they have on this website. So it says firearms during school hours. There were 7 firearm attacks. Right, and
Jesus.
Parkland is one of them. Stoneman Douglas High School is one of them. Let's see, the one that I told you about, the 21-year-old, killed during a fight at the party. It states firearm attacks not occurring during school hours. And then there's shots fired during school hours, unknown reason. There's 2 things. Unintentional gunfire during school hours. There's 3. Suicide attempts during school hours. There's only one, and that's in Colorado Elementary School. And a middle school student.
What the?
Oh yeah. Well, it wasn't a elementary student because you know how some schools or districts have like let's say 6th grade and elementary and all that stuff.
Oh, okay.
Like some Aldine
But
schools.
still, they're pretty young.
Yeah, so it says a middle school student shot himself in the bathroom in the school and was pronounced dead at the scene.
That's terrible.
And then
That's really young.
oh yeah, and then the other ones are just spray bullets hit school building during school hours. So it hit the building, but it hit anybody. And the other one is spray bullets hitting school building, not occurring during school hours. And of course, there's no injuries because it's hitting a building, just probably hitting the outside of the building.
There's one where it's a bullet hitting glass or something. It went through a pane of glass.
Yes, right here. It says, Wiley College, Marshall, Texas. Gunshots fired from a vehicle in the parking lot of a college dorm entered through a window, but did not injure residents.
Hmm.
And that happened in January, so that was a couple months ago.
We can definitely see how BS the school shooting statistics are, though the ones that are actually killing people are terrible. Even the suicides, man. Listen.
Dude, the suicides hurt me the most.
Oh, yes, because, okay, we're teenagers, so we live through that emotional stuff.
Whenever I first started hearing about these shootings, I was actually Democrat. I was super into gun control for like 3 seconds until I realized that it wouldn't fix anything.
Okay.
I got in that logic loop because I kept on researching things, and then I saw something by Ben Shapiro, and I completely switched.
Okay, so I'm just gonna throw this one out. January 22nd, Net Charter High School in Gently, Louisiana. A unknown person fired at students from a vehicle in the school parking lot. One person was injured, though not from gunfire, and yet they have it as a gun attack during school hours. So, and it's still under the whole school shooting thing, even though the person was injured but not by the gun.
Like I said, only guns going off.
Fake news.
All you really have to read is a gun going off in a school premises. So like that's all you really have to read. That's a school shooting. That is actually the defined term for school shooting. I don't feel like we're making any ground, so maybe it's just me. Like, you can keep on reading off these, but like...
See, I think the thing is gun control is a good idea, but it's not going to work. Because what they want to do is get rid of guns, but they can't get rid of guns. They're instead what they're trying to do is limit it. They're not doing what they want.
Okay. No, I can actually disprove your argument. I can prove why it's not a good idea, even if we could get rid of all guns. Like I've said before.
Say no guns exist. No guns exist.
Okay, the government will become
alternate worlds. There are no guns.
Charging us taxes like $50, just like in up north in
Canada.
Canada, yeah. Just like up north in Canada, where the tax rate is like 50% of the product.
So the thing that Bernie Sanders tried doing to us, raising our tax, our tax.
Didn't you want to raise the taxes for the 1% to like 90% of their income?
I believe it was 92%.
Taxes are dumb.
Gay, dude.
Okay,
taxes
so Jacob,
are dumb.
you actually were factual on the whole. Only three school shootings resulting in death, and that was Parkland, Lincoln High School, Philadelphia, and the Marshall County High School in Benson, Kentucky.
You know, this debate that we've been having for the past like hour and a half been very it feels good to debate like this. You know that?
Oh yes.
It's been
this is really nice.
I don't think I've ruined my life too much in the future.
Oh, I'm still gonna look back and cringe.
Yeah.
You're gonna look back and cringe no matter what you do now.
Oh yeah.
Just enjoy it while you can.
You're not wrong.
Like if you're gonna cringe, make it good.
I don't know a person that will look back in the past from the future and say, "Man, I was a really cool kid and never cringy at all." I can't
If you say that, you're the same person. You haven't changed.
yeah,
You're still that cringy kid.
and you
Oh,
should feel bad.
All right. So I'm gonna have to end this video now.
Me too.
All
I
right.
gotta
So
go.
Okay.
I'm just gonna say our closing remarks here. So if y'all like this, podcast, please leave a like and subscribe. Leave a comment if you want anything, changed and improved. Jacob, you got anything to say?
Vote Ben Shapiro 2020.
Brian?
That's basically
This was a really good podcast. It was a conversation, not an interview. I really
yeah.
like it.
The first video was just full on interview. But yeah, of course, like I said, if y'all liked it, like this video, like and subscribe down below. So I'll see y'all in the next video. Peace.